Hi kids, this is Ms Stacey. In this video, I'm going to read to you Big Mamas by Donald Cruz. I did a little research and found out that Donald Cruz wrote this book about his own childhood, so it is autobiographical. He is the main character and the narrator or storyteller. Even though that's about 40 years before my childhood, there are some things in the book that I recognize because I grew up in the country. And at the end of the story, I'm going to show you some photographs from my childhood of things that the pictures in this book reminded me of. Big Mamas by Donald Cruz. Did you see her? Did you see Big Mama? We call our grandma Big Mama. Not that she was big, but she was Mama's mama. Every summer we went to see her. Mama, my sisters, my brother, and me. I think that's Mama, sisters, and one of these is the brother, and one of these is the narrator, the person who's telling the story, who calls themselves me. Daddy had to work. He would come later. It took 3 days and 2 nights on the train. Now we were nearly there. They're looking out the train windows. Cottondale, Cottondale, next station stop, Cottondale, yelled the conductor to the nearly empty train. Don't leave no babies on this train. He made the same joke year after year. My Uncle Slank came for us by car. We'd always hoped he would come with a horse and wagon, but he never did. This is the uncle. Oh, okay, here's the station and the train tracks. And this is the car. It looks a little bit different from modern cars because this book takes place many, many, many years ago. We crossed back over the train tracks, a turn or two along the red dirt road. Oh, and they're sharing a road with a wagon pulled by horses. So in those days, horses and wagons shared roads with cars. Into the lane in front of Big Mama's house. That's her house. Big Mama and Big Papa were waiting for us on the porch, and there were hugs and kisses and, oh my, how you've grown, and how tall are you? Is this you? Wow, it's been a long time since she saw her grandkids. Then off with our shoes and socks. We wouldn't need them much in the next few weeks. Now, to see that nothing had changed. In the hall, the sewing machine that you had to pedal like a bicycle. You push on that pedal with your feet. The big clock over the fireplace. The wind-up record player. Wow. The kerosene lamps and the Sears Roebuck catalogs. This is a kerosene lamp. And they use it for light because they don't have electricity. And the Sears Roebuck catalogs. Sears Roebuck was a department store that used to sell things through the mail. They did not have the internet. So for shopping where you don't have to go to the store, you could order things by mail. And that's what a catalog was for. Our room, my brother's and mine and Uncle Slank's. Oh, okay. So all the boys share with Uncle Slank. Across the hall, the room where my sisters and Mama slept. Next to it, Big Mama's and Big Papa's room. Then to the back porch. I think the back porch is out this way. Look at the animals! Does Big Mama live on a farm? Off the porch were 3 rooms. The tiny extra room, no bigger than the bed in it. None of us wanted to sleep there alone. The dining room with the big round table and chairs. I think that's the one, dining room. And next to it, the kitchen. On the porch was the washstand where we washed our hands and feet. Oh, if they're running around in the dirt, they gotta wash their feet before they go back inside so they don't get the floor all dirty. At the end of the porch was the well. Don't fall in, we were told every year. No one ever did. We stood on tiptoe to watch the bucket go down and fill with water so that we could have a drink from the dipper. There's the dipper. There's the bucket. Oh, this is very deep well. They use the rope to haul up the bucket so they can dip into the bucket to take a drink. So everything at Bigmama's was just the same. In the backyard was the chicken coop, where Sunday dinner's chicken spent its last days. Oh, a wood pile. Somebody's been splitting wood for the fire. Behind the shed full of old stuff was the outhouse. Okay now, but scary in the dark. The outhouse is their bathroom. That's where they go to use the toilet. We stopped for a drink at the pump. Oh, the pump is another place they can have a drink, so they can drink out of the well bucket or they can drink at the pump. My grandma had a pump in her backyard. We ran past the pear tree where the turkeys roosted at night. Aw, there's some of the turkeys from Bigmama's farm. And roosted means, I think the turkeys like to sit in the pear tree's branches. Under the tractor in front of the tool shed was a good place to look for nests with eggs in them. Oh my goodness. Looking for nests. Oh, look at that tool shed. This looks like my grandparents' tool shed too. Next to the tool shed was the huge empty pot for making syrup from sugarcane juice. Oh, wow. I dug some worms from the big pile of cane pulp. Wigglers were the best kind for fishing. I chose a pole. Oh, these are fishing poles. Do you see the line wrapped around them? That's the fishing line. And he's gonna find a wiggler in there to go fishing with. Gotta put a worm on the end of the line to catch a fish. The barn was another place to look for eggs. Oh, there's the wagon. On to the stable to see Nancy and Maud. Wow, what a neat farm Bigmama has. Maud was friendly, but Nancy was a biter. Oh, ouch. Down the path, past the cow pen and the pig pen to the pond. The flat-bottomed boat was still there. Plenty of water for fishing and swimming this year. Everything just as it should be. A fish! A fish! I got one! I got one! I yelled. He's fishing. Woo-hoo! The train whistle. It's dinner time. Oh, the children know that it's dinner time because the train goes by at the same time of evening every evening. And that's just about dinner time. Ooh, look at that big dinner, big family dinner. Everybody sitting around the table that filled the room. Big Mama, Big Papa, Big Mama and Big Papa. Uncle Slank, he's wearing overalls. our cousins from down the road, and all of us. We talked about what we did last year. We talked about what we were going to do this year. We talked so much we hardly had time to eat. Wow, look at that starry night. The night was jet black except for millions of stars. We could hardly sleep thinking about things to come. Look at those stars. Some nights, even now, I think that I might wake up in the morning and be at Bigmama's with the whole summer ahead of me. But who's this? This is the narrator, the person who's telling us the story. He's the author and illustrator, Donald Crews. But he's a man now. See, he grew a beard and he looks like a grown-up. He's in a city with a clock on the side of a building, but still remembering Bigmama's house. Kids, thank you for listening to this story, Bigmama's. Let's talk about some of the different technology in this book. This book starts with a big train trip. We still have trains. Back in those days, people, I think, traveled by train more than they do today. Bigmama's house didn't have any electricity. She didn't have any built-in lights. She didn't have any plug outlets to plug in anything that would need electricity. So for light, they used the kerosene lamp. And there was no computers in those days. To enjoy music, they used a hand-cranked, because it couldn't run on electricity, a hand-cranked record player. Records on a record player was how people enjoyed music. Bigmama didn't have any running water in her home, so there was no bathroom in the house. They went to the bathroom in that shed in the backyard called the outhouse. And they had to wash their hands at the washstand on the back porch. Remember that? And they got fresh drinking water from the well or the pump. So, and then there was a lot of the farm equipment too that was different from what's on a modern farm. Bigmama's farm is a little bit different from how I grew up, but there's some things in here I recognize. Like I said, I told you kids that the tool shed looks like my grandparents' tool shed, and that's true, it does. In fact, my granddad had a tractor just like this, and then my dad used that tractor for many years. This is a picture of my granddad driving the tractor, and in the wagon in back are my cousins when they were little, back in the 1980s. When I was a teenager, my dad tried to teach me to drive the tractor. I didn't learn how to drive the tractor. I learned on the car. One of my cousins from that picture is a grown-up now, and he is taking the tractor to his house because my dad is all done with it. And so they put the tractor up on a trailer to go to Pennsylvania, where my cousin lives now. We didn't have horses where I grew up, but we did have this. We had something like this. This is a mower. A person sits on this seat, and the horses get hitched up to this pole, and this piece is a bunch of blades that will cut the grass or cut the hay. Hay is like really tall grass. And my dad used to use a mower just like this to cut hay when I was a little kid, but since we didn't have horses, he pulled it behind his tractor. So yeah, this book takes place a long, long time ago, but these tools are still useful for people who live on a farm or in the country. Here's a picture of my grandma with the tractor, and that white house in the background is her house. She lives next door to my dad's house, the house where I grew up. My family hasn't had farm animals for a long time, since the time when my dad was a little boy. But they still do a garden almost every year. Remember this scene from the book where the kids drink from the pump? This is the pump in the backyard of my other grandma, my mother's mother. And do you remember the scene with the huge empty pot for making syrup from sugarcane juice? That reminds me of my dad and granddad making syrup from maple sap. Maple sap comes from maple trees. That's how we make syrup in the Adirondacks where I grew up. So even though I recognized a lot of the things from this book that were similar, my growing up in the country and Donald Cruz visiting his Big Mama's house in the country, we had a lot of differences too. His was about 40 years before my childhood and in the South, whereas I grew up in the North. Also, I don't know what it's like to be black like Donald Cruz and his family, which was very different and harder. Well, thank you so much for watching my vid. I hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you later. Goodbye.